Do you think you could launch a successful Amazon product for $500 or less? Now, I believe this is completely doable. And in today's video, I want to touch on the pros and the cons and the potential limitations of having a small launch budget. Now, I'm Chris Steff. I'm here to teach you all about Amazon Australia and making you the most successful seller you can be in the coming 2024 year. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about launch budgets because it's a question I get asked all the time by new sellers. What amount of money do I need to start selling and be successful? So in today's video, we're going to touch on a smaller launch budget, like $500, and then I'm going to recommend at the end of the video what I think is the ideal amount and the sort of budget you should be aiming for to really get your foot in the door and become a successful Amazon seller. So let's get started on this video. Firstly, what are the positives? What are the pros of selling a product for only $500? Now, the first one is obvious. It's low risk. With a smaller number of products to begin with and a smaller budget, you're really taking less risk. So for any reason, if the product is incorrect, it has a fault, or you need a change, or you just generally don't like the idea anymore and you want to move on, you're investing a smaller amount of money and it's low risk. Now, this leads me to my next point. Smaller upfront investment. Now, with a $500 budget, you could potentially find a product on Alibaba for $10 and purchase maybe 25 of these. This gives you $250 spare to pay for all the shipping and maybe any small customization, if possible, within that tiny little budget. Now, this means you're not over-investing to begin with, but you're still being able to learn some of the steps. Which leads me to my third valuable point, is that by launching with a low budget, you are going to learn valuable insight, so all the process required to go live on Amazon. Now, some people find it hard to pull the trigger. They do all the work, they do all the product research, they have all these ideas, they put the time and effort in, but when it comes to pulling the trigger and placing that order and actually going live on Amazon, they just don't have it in them. They get cold feet. And sometimes this could become down to the size of the order. If they have to invest $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, it might be worrying them. It might be stressing them out. They might have other payments. They might only be earning a certain amount of money. With a smaller launch budget, this takes away some of that risk. It takes away some of that stress. And if you've got $500 and you're willing to lose $500, you're going to win by even getting a product out there. Win or lose, by launching a product for $500, you're going to learn the whole process and it's going to be amazing. You're going to learn so much more than getting stuck in the trenches and never getting a product out there. So on the back of this, they are the three main positives of a small launch budget, but I want to go now into the cons of only having a restricted $500 budget and what this actually means as an Amazon seller in Australia. Firstly, it's a no-brainer, but it is limiting if you have a smaller launch budget. You really are limiting your profits with a lower launch budget. Now, I typically like to sell products that are $50 and more. I like to sell higher ticket items because the profit is better. Now, your profit margins might be the same for a really cheap product, but your profit margins for a higher ticket item actually gives you more money, more actual profit in the bank. Now, what you can do with this is you can reinvest this, buy more products, you can buy a new product, bring out a new design of product, or you can spend more money on Amazon's marketing like PPC to help promote your product, which will in the end provide more sales and more profit. So what I mean by this, and here's an example, is if I was selling a product that was on $10 on Amazon. Now this product might only cost me $3, and if you use the 30% rule, which you normally aim for, I was probably only going to make $3 profit. Now, $3 profit doesn't give you much leverage to spend any more money on ads to build a larger cash source to build the next order. I'm only really getting my cogs back and a little bit of a bonus. Whereas if I was selling a product that was worth $60 and it cost me $20, then I'd be getting a profit of roughly $20 on top of that, which gives me a lot bigger profit and a quicker way to build the brand up from the bottom. The next main point is limit of product choice. Now, previously we talked about if a product costs $10, you could maybe order 25 products with that $500 budget. Now, what this does is it limits the choice of product you could sell. Now, we want to keep our options open from the beginning. We don't want to limit our choices. We want to make sure that when we're doing our thorough product research, everything is open and we can kind of use as many ideas and as products as possible. Now, if we're selling a product at $10, we are really limiting. We can only buy 25 at that price. And if we wanted to buy a product that was even more expensive, say $20, we're only down to like 10 units. Now, this isn't a smart way to launch in Amazon. You want to have at least a minimum number of units to begin with, because it's very important, and I'm going to touch on this later, when you're launching, that you don't run out of stock. So what the issue is with having a product launch of $500 is you are limiting your potential product ideas and the potential winning products that are out there that could be making you and could be the next big thing. The costs do increase. This might sound strange, but realistically, the more you order, the better rate per unit you're going to get. Now, we want to be able to negotiate with our suppliers, and with a small order of say 25 units, they're not going to budge on prices. They're going to give us the stock standard prices. We're going to be paying probably the top dollar, and we're going to be competing against everyone else on Amazon who's potentially spending more money with bigger orders and a lower cost per unit. Now, the aim of the game is to get our costs down. The lower cost per unit means it increases our profit margins and increases our profit, which is what we're aiming for. Addition, if you have a slightly larger launch budget and you can order 100, 150, 200, you're then going to be dividing this by your shipping costs. The more units reduces the shipping cost per unit. So not only you're getting a cheaper cost per unit per manufacturing the product, you're also going to get a cheaper cost per unit for the shipping of the product, which is very crucial when you're trying to have a little bit of leverage and you can do deals and sales and offers on Amazon's platform. The last main point that I wanted to touch on, and the con of having a small $500 budget, is to do with Amazon's ranking. Now, as you know or should know, Amazon is a search platform. And when you launch a product, you're in the honeymoon period. That means that in the first month of launching, you want to try to sell as many products as possible, because it's organically going to bring your product up to the top of page one. Now, the aim of Amazon as a seller is to have your product up as high as possible on page one. Now, if you start with a lower number of units and you sell out and you can't restock them quick enough in that month, you may actually affect your natural organic ranking, and it's going to take you a hell of a lot to get back up to the top. So that's why we always talk about maybe a number of 100 units is a good number. It gives you more potential. It's a little bit higher risk, but it gives you more potential to really build on your organic ranking and anchor yourself at the top of the competitors from day one as soon as you launch that product. Now, the answer to the question that I said at the start of this video, do you think you can launch a product on Amazon Australia with a budget of $500? I have just covered the pros and the cons, and yes, it is doable, but I would advise against it. Now, a startup budget, I believe, is the right amount to get there and to cement yourself in with a good product idea and product launch strategy is around $1,500 to $2,000. If you have more, even better, because it just gives you more opportunity and more options when launching. Now, I say this, and I've had other students launch before in my academy. They've launched under $1,000 and they've done it the hard way. I'm not saying it can't be done, but they've made it a lot harder for them to get into becoming a winning Amazon seller, because they've had to restock quickly, they've had to air freight, they've had to spend a bit more, they've had to play around and have their profit margins a bit lower than they could, but that's all they had at the time. So hats off to them, because they've gone in and they've done it the hard way and they've been successful, but I truly believe that you need a slightly larger launch budget to really get ahead. Now, one of the main reasons this is because you want to have a little bit more breathing space. You want to spend a little bit more on advertising on Amazon to begin with. You want to be able to do deals. You want to be able to run promotions. You want to maybe pay for a few reviews so you can get your listing looking A+, sales running, and organic rank just generating to the maximum it can be. It's so important, and I believe to do this, you need to start with a slightly larger launch budget. So I want to touch on really the main positives quickly of what happens if you launch with a slightly larger budget. To start with, you have better priced products. Firstly, bigger orders, better pricing, cheaper shipping is the first main positive you get as soon as you increase your budget and increase your order quantity. The next key point is branding. Larger orders means that you can brand your product. You can negotiate with the supplier. You can put a logo on the box. You can put a customized packaging. You can have insert cards. You can put a logo on your product. Now with branding, you get additional bonuses on Amazon. You get A+ content. You can have videos. You can have additional photos and notes and descriptions that really help your product sell. And also, it gives you a higher perceived value. Customers that see a nicely branded product are more likely to buy it because they resonate with the brand and they like it and they just want to get around it. So branding is crucial and you need a little bit more money to do this. Choose an ocean, not a pond. Now what I mean by this is you're very limited with your choices. You're going to have to pick products that are on the lower scale price-wise, which means you're going to be competing with a lot more sellers that are also selling these cheaper products. With a higher ticker product, you're going to have actually less competition and there's going to be way less chance of being copied at a quicker rate. People that sell lower ticket items can quickly replicate and copy and have them manufactured en masse and sent back in at a cheaper rate. It happens all the time. So protect yourself a little bit more. You want to be looking in the big ocean with a bit more money rather than focusing on that small little pond where you're very restricted and can become very overcrowded. Spare capital is the last point I want to touch on. With a little bit more money on the side, you don't have to worry about spending it all on your product launch. You could put a little bit away. Maybe you want to get some CGI photos done. Maybe you want to pay for some branding. Maybe you want to do a little bit of customization. Have a little bit of money in the pocket to start paying for PPC as soon as you launch. All this comes down to having that little bit of excess money. With a $500 budget, you're probably going to want to spend that all on the products because there's not much more money you really have left over to spend anywhere else. So this is the last point I want to touch on where you can actually benefit from having a larger starting budget. Now you might have clicked on this video thinking that I was going to give you the cheat code to selling a product on Amazon Australia with a budget of $500. Well, the cheat code is yes, you can do it. But before you even sell a product for $500, you need to know that it's going to be profitable. You need to do your product research. Whether you're selling a product for $500, $1,000 budget, $2,000 budget, if you haven't done your product research and you don't know if the data is there to suggest that it's going to sell, if there's demand, if there's revenue, if there's search volume, is there competition? If you haven't done these aspects, if you've not done the research and you're going in blind, whatever budget you have is going to fail. 99 times out of 100, you're not going to do very well if you're going in blindfolded with no idea what you're doing. You need to learn the strategies. Every time I look at a product idea, every time I think about launching a new product, I go through a bunch of different steps, a bunch of different phases to eliminate, to make sure that it ticks all the boxes. So it's very important, no matter what budget you start off with, that you focus and you spend the time doing the product research. Now, what I suggest is that you spend maybe 3-4 weeks doing product research, and in this time, you could actually build up your budget. So you're not launching with that $500 limit. If you save a couple of $100 each week, you can launch with $1,000, maybe $1,500, and really give yourself more options to be successful. Regardless of what launch budget you choose, by getting a product out there, you're going to learn so much. Like I mentioned earlier, I've had students launch for under $1,000 and now they're on to their second products because they learned all the steps first. So guys, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe button below and stay up to date with every new episode I drop. But for today, that's it. Happy selling and I'll see you in the next video.